So the other day, we did a breaking news segment discussing how another giant, bright red line was crossed by the Trump regime. That line, of course, is they arrested a judge. They arrested a judge. Now, when you look at the specifics of what happened here, there is no doubt it is the Trump regime that is in flagrant violation of the law. Here you had a judge who saw the reality that, hold on, they're deporting totally innocent people with no due process and sending them to a concentration camp in El Salvador. That's illegal in like multiple different ways. And so they saw the nightmare that was unfolding. We also saw in a courtroom in Virginia, an immigration hearing, a judge dismissed the case of an immigrant, and then ICE came into the courtroom and detained that immigrant, totally denying and disregarding what the judge just ruled. This is what we're seeing now, y'all. This is what we're seeing now. So there is no due process. There is no habeas corpus. There are no hearings. This is the destruction. It is a war being waged on the rule of law and checks and balances. And so what this judge did is allegedly told immigrants, there was a hearing in the courtroom, said, hey, when the hearing's over, go out the side door because ICE is looking for you. They have nothing to do with this process here. They have no right to be here. She had told them, hey, you guys got to go. You can't show up at every immigration hearing and then, regardless of what the judge's decision is, start hauling away these immigrants. Again, you are taking away their rights. You're taking away their rights. So she goes, I'm going to uphold the law. So, hey, you guys go out the side door, right? And this is like the allegation that the Trump regime is making. Even in their own retelling of events, she's correct. So she does that. Boom. FBI arrests her, puts her in handcuffs, perp walks her, takes pictures of it for propaganda reasons. Then they start going on Fox News saying, nobody is above the law. Oh, is that so? Is that so? Then y'all better get your asses behind bars ASAP. Donald Trump was charged with 91 crimes. He's already a convicted felon in the state of New York. He commits crimes on a daily basis. Elon Musk is committing crimes on a daily basis, illegally hacking into the Treasury and deleting whatever government agencies he personally doesn't like, slashing Meals on Wheels, slashing pediatric cancer research, all of this unconstitutional, all of this illegal. If nobody's above the law, where the fuck is your case on Elon Musk? Where's your case? Where is your case on Donald Trump? Where's your flagrantly violating a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling and you want to talk about nobody's above the law? Guess what, bitch? I agree. Your asses need to be locked up. Pam Bondi, you need to be locked up. She's the one saying nobody's above the law. That's right. So get your ass behind bars. Look, they are complete fascists. They are complete fascists. So now they're arresting judges who are doing their job and upholding the law. Beyond constitutional crisis, this is a coup. This is a coup. They're selling Trump 2028 merch. That's a coup. There's a 2-term limit, and he's saying, I'm going to stay in beyond 2 terms. Coup. It's a coup. Just like he tried to do one in 2020. This is a coup. Then we get this news. The Trump administration just deported 2 families, including 3 U.S. citizens aged 2, 4, and 7. They're deporting toddlers, bro. Both families were detained and then blocked from communicating with attorneys or family. Illegal. Again, wildly illegal. No due process. One of the moms is pregnant. One of the citizen kids has cancer. Both were deported without medical help. A 2-year-old with cancer, who's an American citizen, was deported. Donald J. Trump needs to immediately be impeached, be removed from office, and be tried for crimes. Are we going to sit back and watch this happen? Hey, Republicans, where are your fucking balls? You think Republican congresspeople don't know how wildly illegal this is? You are talking about American citizens being deported. Right off the bat, that's completely not allowed. Right off the bat. Then you add, by the way, they're a 2-year-old and they have cancer. You're telling me 0 Republicans, out of all the Republicans in the House and the Senate, 0 have enough of a moral conscience to stand up and say, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. The extent to which that party is full of cuck bitches is immeasurable. Immeasurable. You're telling me if this was not the straw that broke the camel's back, there is nothing that Trump could do that they wouldn't either outright support and cheerlead or sit back and shut the fuck up and let it play out. There's nothing. I've said it before, and some people thought I was joking. I wasn't joking. If Trump decided within this term, said, I'm going to nuke Greenland, and actually dropped a nuke on Greenland, do you think they would budge an inch? Do you think they would budge an inch? Do you think they would call out Trump? Do you think they would try to impeach Trump? Democracy can only function if there is good faith among the various political parties and their factions in leadership. It can only function in that scenario. If there is no good faith and there is no connection to objective reality, and if one side is a complete and utter Kool-Aid drinking fascist death cult, well then, effectively, Trump is an emperor. He is an overlord god king. He is a tyrant and a dictator. And what we're looking at here is historic in its cowardice. Every single Republican knows no president is in any position whatsoever to round up U.S. citizen 2-year-olds with cancer and ship them out with no medical care. Everybody knows that. They're not saying dick about it. They're not saying anything about nothing. Why the fuck aren't there impeachment proceedings already underway? Why are there not Why are we not talking about impeachment, removal, and arrest? Why are we not talking about that? How much further does this have to go? He already disregarded a Supreme Court order 9-0, and nobody's talking about impeachment? Nobody's talking. If that was any other president, they would have already drafted the paperwork, and we'd already be halfway through the fucking process. If this was any Democratic president, it would be a rapskis. And by the way, you'd have half the Democratic politicians going, I agree with the Republicans. You can't flagrantly disregard a Supreme Court order 9-0. A 2-year-old with cancer who's a U.S. citizen, a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, a mother who's pregnant. This is who they're deporting. Is this what you had in mind? Is this what people had in mind? No, we already walked through this. A lot of the people who voted for Trump were convinced through his propaganda there's like hundreds of thousands of violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants in the country. But don't worry, Trump's going to get them out of here. Well, what they're learning now the hard way is in order to do any semblance of a mass deportation, you're going to move well beyond just violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants. Because there aren't that many violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants. Dog, they were already deported within the first 2 or 3 days, bro. Every administration deports violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants. That's not novel. That's not special. That's not something only Trump will do that. No, it is Trump who's targeting innocent people. It is Trump who's targeting U.S. citizens. It is Trump who's providing no due process. In order to do a mass deportation, you will absolutely have to end up rounding up people who work a full-time job, have been here for 5 or 10 years, have family here, have roots here, have known nothing but the United States of America, contribute to society, etc. You're going to have to round up good people who make this country better. And that's exactly what the fuck they're doing. All right, but that's not it. The Trump administration has ripped away scores of Homeland Security agents who rescue child sex abuse victims and reassign them to immigration crackdowns instead. These agents help save over 3,000 kids in just 2 years. One agent warned, these changes mean more children will stay trapped in abuse. Trump didn't just turn his back on these kids, he left them to suffer. So yeah, let's take away all of the agents who are working on saving child sex abuse victims, and let's take them and make them deport 2-year-old American citizens with cancer. That's what he's doing. By the way, kind of interesting, isn't it? Kind of interesting that a guy who was literal besties with Jeffrey Epstein, as Jeffrey Epstein himself said on audio tape that we have, a guy who was buddy-buddy with the CEO of Elite Pedo Sex Crimes Incorporated, turns out he's not too hard cracking down on pedophiles. Turns out. Isn't that crazy? By the way, Virginia Giuffre just allegedly committed suicide, and she was one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. She was trafficked. You want to know where she was picked up by Jeffrey Epstein? I hope you're sitting down. You ready for this? Mar-a-Lago. That's where she was picked up by Jeffrey Epstein. So the guy who said, I wish her well, talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, the VP of Elite Pedo Sex Crimes Incorporated, that guy, turns out he is soft on people who abuse minor children. He's soft on them. Taking the agents who police to save kids from sexual abuse and using them to what? Deport more gay makeup artists to El Salvador, to the gulag with no due process? He's got to be removed. He's got to be impeached. He's got to be removed. He's got to be arrested. He has to be. He has to be. All right, I got more. Ready for this? This was big breaking news. U.S. officials were quietly working to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia home from El Salvador. Then the White House stepped in. So in other words, the DOJ admitted in court, yeah, we deported this guy in error. It was an administrative error. We'll get him back. This is what happened. And so agents started working on bringing him back, going, yeah, we made a mistake, so we're just going to get him back. Then Trump steps in, and you know how he functions. And fake news media, the media is fake news. We hate the media. We hate Democrats. We double down, we triple down, we quadruple down. We never admit a mistake. They literally intervened to say, we want you to keep the innocent person there because if you bring them back, that'll make us look bad. By the way, how delusional. The idea that, well, if we keep them there and double down and triple down and quadruple down, we won't look bad. Oh, not only do you look bad, now you look like Hitler because you are that, right? If you say, we know he's innocent, we know he didn't do anything wrong, but we want to keep him there anyway because when we say something, it's final. I mean, I can't imagine a more completely unhinged fascist maneuver than that. You want an innocent man to be locked up in a gulag concentration camp for life because you don't want to damage your ego. You don't want to bruise your ego. You don't want to ever admit a mistake. By the way, with this mental process, where do you think this leads over the next 4 years? With a team that is completely and utterly, fundamentally, constitutionally incapable of admitting, yeah, we got it wrong, we're going to fix it. This is the exact opposite of every quality you would want in a leader, right? I used to mock the idea of his character is not good for office. Because I think somebody could have poor character but actually be good on policy and fight for that stuff, right? Turns out I was fucking wrong. Turns out character matters a lot. Turns out there are huge downsides when the leader of the United States of America exhibits every negative characteristic known to man. Zero humility, no virtue, no integrity, no honor, no truth-telling. This guy is a purely ego-driven, narcissistic extremist who refuses to ever admit fault and has set up a cult around him. So they were going to bring Kilmar home. And the White House stepped in and said, no, you're not. Keep that innocent man locked up. Again, you're going to hear me say this a lot within this next shit until he's gone. Why is he not being impeached right now? Why is he not being impeached? Why is he not being removed? Why is he not being arrested? Look, do we have rule of law or do we not? Right? I get it. They flagrantly violate the rule of law. That doesn't mean Democrats need to give them the assist. Right? That doesn't mean that. Do a fucking full court press. Go all in. Go all over the place in the media and don't shut the fuck up about it ever. Come with a list of his shit. Hundreds of crimes at this point. Trump, Elon, the rest of them. Come with a list. You know, I think the courts would be very open now, more so than they were before, to the idea that, hey man, this guy really is a criminal. Let's be clear. Trump should have never been in position to be president again anyway. There is a provision in the Constitution which says, if you committed insurrection or provided aid and comfort to those who committed insurrection, in that scenario, you cannot hold office anymore in the U.S. He fucking did exactly that with January 6th and with the fake elector slate. There are some state and local level politicians who were at January 6th who lost their position because of that provision in the Constitution. But Trump gets away scot-free and gets to rule the country again? Are we out of our fucking minds? All right, ready? Look at this. So Trump did this long, meandering interview with Time magazine where he repeatedly humiliated himself. And we got this incredible back and forth. So the person interviewing him for Time says, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that you have to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You haven't done so. Aren't you disobeying the Supreme Court? So that's a great, straightforward question. Trump says, well, that's not what my people told me. They didn't say it was. They said it was the 9-0 was something entirely different. Now, by the way, let me just pause here to point out, on this, Trump is not wrong, because we have it on video when it was brought up to Trump, the 9-0 loss. Stephen Miller immediately interjected in a panicked way and said, that's not right. It's actually not right. What they said is that 9-0, we were correct, and that the judicial branch cannot cross the line and control U.S. foreign policy. So he interjected immediately, be like, no, that's not true. We actually won the case. So it looked to me like Stephen Miller, Trump doesn't know his ass from his elbow, doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He just wants to play golf at Mar-a-Lago. And Stephen Miller is the one who's controlling everything, who's telling him what he wants him to hear. And it's Stephen Miller who's acting completely rogue. That doesn't mean Trump isn't also guilty, because he's literally going along with it and he's not even bothering to look into it any further. But now we've hit the point where you can't just blame Stephen Miller. Why? Because of what Trump says in response. Ready? So the guy asks, let me quote from the ruling, quote, "The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador. Are you facilitating a release?" Again, great question from the Time reporter. Trump says, "I leave that to my lawyers. I give them no instructions. They feel that the order said something very much different about what you're saying, but I leave that to my lawyers. If they want, and that would be the Attorney General of the United States and the people that represent the country, I don't make that." So in other words, this reporter is directly saying to Trump, hold on now. You lost that case. You have to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It was 9-0, and here's a quote from it that says you have to return him. And Trump still dodges. Trump still passes the buck and says, it's on Pam Bondi, it's on Stephen Miller, it's on my lawyers. I don't really get involved with it. You're the fucking president of the United States. If you say, hey, we got to bring him back, they would fucking bring him back. They would bring him back. So they are all guilty. Pam Bondi is guilty. Stephen Miller is guilty. Donald Trump is guilty. Again, they should all be removed as a result of this. It's not even a close call. Then let me give you this. So some House Democrats who went to El Salvador asked for proof of life for André Hernandez Romero. Now, for those of you who don't know, that is the gay 19-year-old Venezuelan makeup artist who we've talked about before on this show. They didn't get one. No one has heard from this guy since March 14th. Quote, "Everyone is extremely worried," one of the representatives told the Bulwark. So we had the meeting with Kilmar, with Van Hollen, right? All these other House Democrats are going at. Maxwell Frost was down there. Shout out to all these people for actually doing their job. And the El Salvador government refused to let them see the 19-year-old gay makeup artist who was, with no due process and no hearing, rounded up, kidnapped, and human trafficked to the Gulag concentration camp. Guys, there are over 270. I think the exact number is 288. There's 288 people who've been rounded up and shipped there. Up to 90% of them have no criminal record at all. And they were just sent to life in prison in a concentration camp. If you don't understand what this is, again, this isn't first-term Trump. Back then, people would debate, is he a fascist, is he not a fascist? There was a discussion to be had. Now there is no more discussion. He is a fascist. And if you don't see it, you're just wrong. If you don't see it, you're ignorant, or you're stupid, or you just are a fellow fascist, right? So, this guy, we don't know if this guy's even alive. We don't know if this guy's even alive. We don't know. We don't know. And by the way, this is one of the many reasons, I think, why they're being so skittish around the idea of bringing back people who are totally innocent, right? By the way, even if somebody's guilty, even if they committed a crime, you can't send them to a concentration camp and lock them up for life without a hearing. So all of them should be released, right? But very clearly, they didn't even think that deeply into it, where they said, let's pick the perfect perpetrators so nobody would have sympathy for them. They rounded up the most innocent people you've ever seen. So we don't know if these people are alive, and if they are alive, we don't know what kind of horror stories they will tell about being in the gulag. And so that's another reason why they're like, we're not fucking releasing any of these people. Oh, man. Bro, what is there to say? This is a new line that's been crossed. And the fact that there's not a 5-alarm fire and immediate action and immediate impeachment hearings and an attempt to remove and arrest and charge with crimes, if we don't do that, just kiss the idea of rule of law gone. Kiss the idea of checks and balances gone. Kiss the idea of living in a relatively free country with rights. It's gone. This is everything. This is the battlefield. If people don't stand up now and fight now, if people don't act now, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. We are all the people who are sent there. If there's no due process, yes, they will send citizens. Yes, they will do that. If there's no due process, they will do that. And right now, it's around immigration status. Soon, it'll be thought crimes, right? They already locked up Ozturk and Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Ozturk and Mahmoud Khalil, one for an op-ed that's critical of Israel, the other one for leading anti-genocide protests. Again, it starts where it started, but it is mission creep, and it will eventually be just critics of the administration. You ever posted a funny Luigi meme? Well, congratulations. You just gave material support for terrorism, and they're coming to lock you up. Right? They will make a stretch an argument for literally fucking anything. For anything and everything. It's happening. There are no brakes in the car. If people don't stand up now, we're done. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.